Hey, you alright? Welcome to another video. If you haven't been here before, my name is Georgia Jo and this is my channel where I talk all things books. So I thought today I would do a bit of a wrap up. It's not really a monthly one, it's sort of just books that I've read over the past few months really. It's not all of them, but I thought I'd just pick out a few, talk about them and yeah, do a bit of a monthly wrap up, but like a 3-monthly wrap up. So yeah, let's just get into it. Okay, so these aren't really in any sort of particular order, they're just how I've stacked them up and that's the order I'm picking them up in. So yeah, first of all we have got Close Protection by Eden Victoria. So this book I ended up giving 2 stars. I did go into, or I will go into a lot more detail. I filmed a 100 pages a day for a week vlog, which will be the next video out, and I go into a bit more detail about it in that because I read this book in that vlog. But yeah, I gave it 2 stars. It wasn't really for me. I just think I didn't really gel with the characters. I didn't really like the ages that the characters were, and the fact that he was a close protection bodyguard and she was just constantly getting attacked and like constantly in like needing to be like a damsel in distress, and he was like saving her. But it was just like, you just shit at your job, do you know what I mean? Like, he was never there. She was always getting attacked. So yeah, I didn't really gel with the characters, and the writing was good. I think I would have just preferred it if they were like older, if they were in like the mid-20s. So yeah, it just wasn't really for me. I ended up giving it 2 stars, and yeah, I think I've definitely read bodyguard romances that I enjoyed a lot more than this one. So yeah, that was Close Protection by Eden Victoria. Next up we have another one which I read in the same vlog as Close Protection, and it's All the Other Mothers Hate Me by Sarah Harmon. This again I just didn't really gel with. I gave it 2.5 stars. This, I think the main issue with this one was the female lead, the main character, was so annoying. She was so annoying that it was hard to get past it. It was like, there was moments where I was like gritting my teeth to finish it because I wanted to know how the story ended. So basically it's like a bit of a mystery one, I guess. I don't know what the genre would come under. Mystery, it's not really a thriller, but anyway, it comes under that like umbrella, and it's basically about a schoolboy who ends up going missing on a school trip, and one of his classmates, Dylan, is the main lead's son, and he basically is, Dylan is very suspicious and people think he is involved, and the mum, even Florence, the main lead's called, she's even having doubts like, is the son involved? And she basically goes on like this sort of detective spree to try and figure out what actually happened, try and get her son off the hook and try and sort of prove his innocence, or if he did do it, try and cover up. And then you don't know what's happened to this young boy. Has he been kidnapped? Has he been murdered? Did Dylan do something to him? Like, you don't know until the end. So it kept me hooked in the sense that I wanted to know how it ended, but I think I just didn't really care that much. Even when the ending came about, I was just a bit like, oh, okay. Like, not necessarily that I saw it coming, but just that I didn't really care, you know, by the time I got to the end. And like I say, the main character, Florence, is just so annoying. She's very like self-centered, very judgmental of other people, very like using other people for her own gain, and just, yeah, just like really irritating to read because you're reading it all from her point of view. So yeah, I just didn't vibe with it, so I gave it 2.5 stars, and yeah, I wouldn't really recommend it. So All the Other Mothers Hate Me by Sarah Harmon. Next up we actually have 2 books from the same series, which was Dishonestly Yours and Destructively Mine. So these are by Krista and Becca Ritchie, who are the authors of the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. I've not read that series. I keep meaning to, but I think the fact that it's 10 books, I think it's about 10 books, just puts me off it, you know. I also think it's going to be one of those series that I get really hooked on and end up not doing anything else with my life because all I want to do is read them. So I'm kind of putting them off because I think, you know, pardon the pun, but I think I'm going to get addicted to reading them. So I don't know, I'm not in the mindset. I'm trying to do other things at the moment and I don't want to get obsessed with characters for a while, so I am putting off reading it. However, I did end up reading these two. I really enjoyed them. I think because these are like Destructively Mine, the second one only came out recently, so because these are, I'm reading them as they're coming out, I sort of can't get obsessed with them, you know. I can't binge read them because they're not all out yet, so I think that's why I started this one first. But yeah, you're basically following Phoebe and Hayley are best friends, but the two daughters from like a con family. There's two girls, Phoebe and Hayley, and then each girl has two brothers, I think, and all of them, and the parents, all of them are like con artists, and they all do cons together. And then Phoebe and Hayley decide they don't want to do that anymore, but they can't just get out of the life, like the parents won't let them just step away from conning, so they have to sort of run away basically, and they run away to this small town. And then it turns out that there's more to this small town than what meets the eye. You're following it all from Phoebe's point of view and Rocky's point of view. So Rocky is a male lead who is Hayley's brother. So Phoebe and Rocky are like the main romance that you're reading about, but you're following the story of all of them and all of the families. I think this is how the Addicted series is set up. I'm assuming we're going to get books on each family member. Like, I'm assuming Hayley and her love interest will get like their own books at some point, but these ones are following Phoebe and Rocky. So yeah, I think that they're very, very character heavy, a bit like Magnolia Parks, or what I'm assuming the Addicted series is like, or Binding 13, that the Boys of Tommen series, where the characters' regular lives are the story, if that makes sense. Kind of like a reality TV show where you're just following their lives but in book form. I think that's how I best describe Magnolia Park. So it kind of gives off that same vibe where you really get to know the characters, and you're either rooting for them or you really can't stand them, or you know what I mean, you're following their emotions and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd really, really recommend it. I'm looking forward to when the third one comes out. I can't honestly remember how they ended, but I'm pretty sure it ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, where I'm looking forward to the next one. I was listening to this whilst I was doing like stuff around the house, and I remember having to like stop what I was doing because I needed to concentrate on what was being said, because I was really hooked. And you know, when you sort of listening to a book and you're like out loud, and you're saying things or doing things out loud, forgetting that, you know, no one else is listening to this. It's not a film you're watching with people, but it's a film playing out in my head. It was like that, like really, really invested in it, really liking the characters, looking forward to the third one coming out. I don't know how many books there's going to be in the series, but this one, Destructively Mine, has only just come out, so I think I'm going to be waiting a while. But Dishonestly Yours, which is the first one, I gave 3.75 stars to, and then Destructively Mine I gave 4 stars to. So yeah, hopefully the stars will just keep going up and up and up, and the series will just get better and better and better. But I don't know when the third one's even coming out. But yeah, really enjoyed the series, would definitely recommend. Next up we have a book on my Kindle, which was Sunny Disposition by Deanna Gray. So I think I saw this book on TikTok. I've had it on my Kindle for a while and just haven't read it, but had it like downloaded, and I saw it from, what's that hockey romance author called that talks a lot on politics and stuff like that? Emily Rath, I think she's called, and she recommended this book. So basically it's a hockey romance, and you're following the two main leads. The lad is the hockey player and the girl is like a gamer, and they basically meet online first, and I think he is her like mod. I'm not 100% sure what that means. Something with her online streams. I know it means modifier, but I don't really know what that actually entails. Something about her streams he does. So they only know each other by their like gamer names. And then they decide to meet up in real life, but there's a big accident, and the ice hockey player ends up, is it ice hockey or hockey? Anyway, the lad ends up being in an accident and losing all of his memories, but somehow they find themselves back together, but they don't know each other is each other, you know? So it's following there too. Anyway, it's a romance, it's an ice hockey romance or hockey romance, and it's just a very lovely, easy to read romance that's a little bit different, because you've got I've never read one before with like a gamer girl and a hockey player, and also with the fact that he doesn't remember anything, doesn't remember his family, his friends, is trying to like gain his personality back. And yeah, it's just following their two romance. So it's a lovely romance, it's very easy to read, does its job. I gave it 3 stars. I probably won't, I think there's only one other book in the series, but I don't really feel like invested in all the characters, so I probably won't read it. But I think on the like surface level of Sunny Disposition, it's very, does its job. It's a hockey romance, easy read, and yeah, I did enjoy it, so I end up giving that 3 stars. Next up, I actually have 3 5-star reads that I've read recently, so we'll go through them next. Oh, actually no, we'll go through the 2 that aren't 5-star reads, and then we'll get into the 3 that are. So I have got For She Is Wrath by Emily Varga. I can't lie, I don't really remember much about this. I think this is one where, was she in a prison? And yeah, it starts off where she is in a prison, and she's been falsely imprisoned by someone she thought loved her. So I guess it's kind of like, it follows like a lovers to enemies, more so than enemies to lovers. And she wants to get herself out of this prison, and so she can have a revenge. And then she ends up meeting this other prisoner, and they sort of plot to get themselves both out of this prison so that they can both have the revenge. There is a magic system in it, but it's not a super complicated magic system, I don't think. And it's very like, I feel like I was very much rooting for the 2 girls that are found each other in prison, very much rooting for them to succeed and get the revenge, you know. It is a I think it would come under a fantasy romance, and yeah, I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. I did enjoy it. I think it's only a standalone, so it's not, you know, you can read it and not feel like you're committing to a full series. Not my favourite fantasy romance. I think, to be honest, I think I am a little bit wanting to come away from the fantasy romance books, because I'm just finding they're all a little bit the same, you know, so I'm just not really finding them very interesting. But this one I did enjoy. I'm glad it's only a standalone. I think if it was a series I probably wouldn't carry it on. So yeah, For She Is Wrath by Emily Varga. I would say it's an easy fantasy romance if you're wanting to get into it. It's got maybe a bit of a different story to others, but it's just not, I don't know, I think they're just not really for me at the moment. I'm sure they'll have the moment again where that's all I want to read again, but at the minute, I don't know, I'm just not really into them. Unless it's already a series that I've started, I'm just not really that bothered. So yeah, I gave it 3.5 stars. And then another book that I gave 3.5 stars was Bone Deep by Rachel Chadwick. So this is a psychological dark romance. Going into this, first of all, if you're going to read it, read all the trigger warnings. But going into this, I didn't really know what psychological dark romance meant. I thought it was just going to be like a typical dark romance. Also, before I get into it, Rachel Chadwick, this is her debut novel, and I found her on TikTok and just really enjoyed her TikToks. Thought she seemed like a really lovely person. It was a really good debut novel. Like I say, gave it 3.5 stars. Let's get into it. So it's a psychological dark romance. Like I said, didn't really understand what that meant. I think the best way I can describe it, it's almost like a thriller meets a dark romance. I'd say like the first half of it is just very typical romance book, not even necessarily that dark, and I was just thinking, this is, you know, it's not really hooking me. I carried on reading it because, like I said, I really liked the author, so I thought I'm gonna give it a proper go, you know, I'm gonna finish it. And I just think, honestly, maybe about halfway, I can't really remember how far it was, but I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked in the story. I didn't see a lot of stuff coming that happened. I think it gets so much better, it gets so much darker. There's so much stuff going on. I've never read a dark romance like it before. I don't think I've ever read a psychological dark romance, which makes sense that I've never read anything like this before. So maybe if you have read those books, maybe it wouldn't be as shocking, but honestly, I was so hooked. I really, really enjoyed it. Like I say, definitely check your trigger warnings, and it is also on Kindle Unlimited. She's got a new book out recently called Ruin Me Gently, which is on my summer TBI. I want to get that one read as well. But yeah, I would really, really give it a go. Go in with it with an open mind, but also check all of the warnings because there's a lot of heavy stuff in there. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would recommend it. So that is Bone Deep by Rachel Chadwick. I gave 3.5 stars. And then last but not least, definitely not least, we've got the 3 5-stars that I have recently. So first one we have is The Women by Kristen Hanna. This book was so good. It was so good. I enjoyed it so much. I was reading this as part of my book club with my sisters and my mum. It's probably not something I would pick up by myself. It's a historical romance, I guess, or historical literary fiction, I guess it would come under. I don't really know. Anyway, it's not set in like modern times. I think it was the 60s that it was set in. But so it's not necessarily something, like I say, that I would pick up by myself. It was so good. It's basically about the war in the 60s, I think it's in Vietnam, and what the sort of women were doing at that time when the men were all off fighting. The women were, obviously there was nurses there and most of them were women, if not all of them were women. I don't think you really got male nurses back then. The doctors were male, but the nurses were women, and how they were just kind of forgotten because, you know, if a woman said, oh yeah, I was at the Vietnam War, it would be like, there's no women in the war. No, you weren't. You know what I mean? But they still got all the like PTSD and the, you know, it's changed their lives completely and ruined their lives in some aspects, and I'm sure some of them lost their lives, and how they were just kind of like forgotten heroes basically, and how a lot of the men wouldn't have survived without these women nurses being there. So yeah, it's kind of following their story. There definitely is a romance in there, but you're not sort of, as much as the romance bit's nice, I feel like I was following it because I wanted to read about these women, you know. I wasn't really reading it for the romance. So yeah, I just think it's one of those stories, very emotional, really keeps you hooked. I'm really rooting for the character to like succeed, you know, and survive and get through it and work through a trauma, and also be like remembered for like being a hero and to be acknowledged. She also had like her dad was very military family, like her brother went to war and they were all so proud of him. His dad was so proud of him that he was going, and then when she said I'm gonna go, it was like not a shunder but like almost disowned her, like didn't want anything to do with her. Can't believe you're going to the war, it's not a place for you, that type of thing, because she was a woman. So yeah, I think it was really an amazing book to read. I definitely recommend it. It's my first Kristen Hanna book, but I definitely want to get some more read because I enjoyed the writing style and the story. Like I say, I really loved it. So yeah, that was The Women by Kristen Hanna. Next up we have The Forgotten Book Club by Kate Story. This is another 5-star read for me. This one was 5 stars mainly because it made me feel loads of different emotions. I was like sobbing at points, like laughing at points. It was just a really lovely book. It's a 5 stars for the vibes more than the writing, you know. But yeah, I really loved it. It's basically following a widow who, I can't remember her name now, Grace. It's following Grace whose husband passed away. She's an older lady. Her husband passed away. I think it was quite a sudden passing away though. And this is basically a year later from his passing. And she's become a bit of a recluse and she doesn't really go out. She only really sees a daughter and a grandson. And she doesn't really want to socialise because, you know, she's stuck in this like grief. And her husband, when he was alive, started this book club at a near town. What am I trying to say? A nearby like library or bookshop, and he started this book club. So her grandson says, why don't you go to that? Why don't you go see what it's about? So she does. She ends up going to this book club, and it's actually a silent book club, and she's not expecting that. She's expecting to go with like a book, be told what to read, and they all talk about the thoughts on this specific book. But it's actually a silent book club, and they end up basically going, they spend like an hour talking. It can be in any different format, but most of the time they spend an hour talking about just their life. Does anyone need to talk about anything? Like, they're just like a friendship group of all different types of people. and then they spend an hour reading. Everyone brings their own book, whatever genre you want, whatever you want to read. You know, you can bring a magazine if you want to, you can bring a fantasy, a historical, a war book, a romance, whatever you want to read, and you just sit in silence and read for an hour, but you've got the company of other people. It sounds perfect. Like, I would love if that book club existed in real life. And it just kind of follows them all from there. So you're learning bits about the different characters. Obviously Grace is going through this grief and she's trying to find sort of a way out of it, I guess. Obviously she's never gonna get over her husband dying, but finding a way to cope, I guess, better with the grief, and finding like a community of people that can help her with that. Obviously all these people knew her husband. So yeah, it was just a really, really lovely book about friendship, community, grief, love. It was just so many different things, and it was really, really lovely. Just a really nice book to read. Obviously very emotional, but yeah, I gave it 5 stars. The Forgotten Book Club, I'd really, really recommend it. It's not something that I would necessarily pick up. I ended up getting it in my Wordy and Wild book box that I get every month, because I think that the actual book that most people got in that book box, I think I've already read it or something like that, so I ended up choosing this one instead. And yeah, I'm so glad I did, because I gave it 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, that is that one. And last but not least, we have a fantasy book, which is A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. Another 5-star read. Really, really enjoyed this book. It was so good. So this is basically, I feel like, basically it's set in London in the 1920s, and it's obviously it's not like real because there's dragons and stuff that exist, but it's set, the fact that it's set in London, I feel like I don't always see very often. But you're basically following Vivian Featherswallow, who, there's like a ranking system in this world. It's a very, very, very easy magic system to understand, I found, even though it's like there's like politics in it, and that, like I say, there's like a ranking system for people. Like there's the 3rd level, the 2nd level, and the 1st level. I think now they were the only 3 levels. 3rd level obviously being the lowest, and then the 1st level being like the elite in the community. And yeah, a lot of politics, very politics heavy, but not to the point where it's sort of difficult to understand. I think sometimes fantasy books that include a lot of politics, a lot of it goes over my head. I don't really understand it. I think if I've got to, you know, remember the different hierarchy and stuff, I just end up forgetting it, and then it takes you out of the story then. But I didn't find that with this one. I really enjoyed it. And you basically got the humans and the dragons. I've got a very like sensitive truce between them at the moment, and it's kind of following that. And Vivian finds out that her parents get arrested for being rebels that are against the like human dragon truce. I feel like I'm butchering this explanation, but seriously, give it a go. Like, it is so good. It's such a good book. Like I say, obviously I gave it 5 stars, so I did really enjoy it. It's got your dragons, also the dragons talk. Vivian is like a language expert, so knows all these different languages, all these different dragon languages, and she's basically recruited to help with the war effort, but she doesn't know which side she should be on. But in order to help free her family, she ends up working for the leaders rather than the rebels, and it's just following that. But my camera's about to die, so anyway, I'd really, really recommend it. I gave it 5 stars. A Language of Dragons, S.F. Williamson. And yeah, that is the end of today's video. A bit of a rush there because like I say, my battery's about to run out, but that is the end of today's video. I hope you did enjoy. If you did and you'd like to subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. But other than that, I will see you in a bit.